Okay, welcome to this Zoom class on conscious nutrition. This is Dr. Teresa Estrella from Natural Ways LLC, and I do have a mission that I have determined is to change the lives of a million souls. So, hopefully, talking with people about the connection to our food and how we are powered through our choices of our food and our nutrition, we can change our path forward. I guess the first question is, okay, exactly who am I? Let's talk through that. Again, my name is Dr. Teresa Estrella, and I think that everyone understands we all have stories. Everything in our life is a story built from some place, how we got started on a path or on a journey. So, I will be telling you my story. If at the end of this lecture you want to share yours, I'd love to hear it. First of all, I am a mother of two children that have physical and psychological health contrasts. That's what I call something that I didn't expect to be there, a health contrast. It's something that delivers me a higher perspective on them as well as me and the world that we live in. So, when we were delivered these contrasts, I was looking and searching for something. Well, I was trying to fix them, first of all. I'm a mom, and you don't like to see things not in alignment with your kids or people that you love. So I was searching. I would say prior to that, though, I was already on the path of like natural health from the time I was a teenager, maybe before that. I would say I remember having to help take care of my grandmother when she had colon surgery. I was pretty young. I was in my teens, and she had to be on a very strict diet, and I would not let her stray from that dietary path. And she showed improvement when she did really well, when she was held to what she was told she was supposed to do. And every time my aunt may have said, "Oh, a little bit won't hurt." Yes, it actually does. It would set her back and change the momentum back in a direction that we didn't want. We were trying to get her healed and well. So again, throughout my teens, my mother took us to a homeopathic practitioner, which was a wonderful experience to have as a teenager. Um, and then throughout my undergraduate work, I wasn't really sure of my path. And at the end of it, I was working as an assistant manager of a restaurant, and I knew that just wasn't quite right. So I went forward with my education into an area which is interestingly sort of on the cusp of allopathic medicine or the biomedical model, which delivers this really nice space to work in a more natural way. Now, I do think, the Western medical model or the allopathic model is changing. And that is very encouraging to someone that's been doing this for most of their adult life or all of their adult life. When I got my degree and I started practicing, I noticed that my patients were not fitting templates. When you're going through a medical training, you learn protocols. You learn how to diagnose things, and then you learn how to treat the diagnosis according to templates and protocols. My problem was that I could not get solid, consistent outcomes. I can get some people to where we need them to be and others not. So I started looking. Again was looking for these changes. Um, so I determined a few things. I determined that I'm actually a healer, and that word means a lot to me, and it might mean more to you after I describe my understanding of it to date. So, yes, I have credentials. That just means I studied a lot. But bigger than that, I'm a healer. And a healer to me is like this really deep calling to change people's lives, hopefully in a positive direction. But what I understand about healing is it is not always fun and it does not always feel good. And there are different levels to it. Some people bring comfort, but others bring change. So to me, I understand healing, and my role is to change things and correct courses and take people to their highest potential. And in all of these experiences, like I said, with my grandmother and then with my children, and myself, I knew that our food choices could be a weapon or a tool, as with anything can be used that way. My One of my favorite examples is from the movie Tangled, the story of Rapunzel. Um, she used a frying pan as a weapon. You can use that to fry an egg or to hit someone in the head with. So, food is that same thing. Now, what happened with my children that really set me on the course, I would say my son, he was 2 years old and he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. That is a whole path in and of itself. That is a difficult lifestyle with things that could go wrong and do go wrong. Um, and it's difficult to manage in many ways. I myself, after he was born, not actually long after his diagnosis, probably as a diabetic, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. So I want to make it very clear, even though I love natural tools to do things and utilizing food and nutrients and homeopathic remedies to source the body, I am not anti-medication. I'm not solid anti-pharmaceutical because my son requires insulin to stay alive. Um, And I have not been able to come off of my thyroid medication in 20 years, almost 20 years of it. Although I can reduce my dosage, I haven't been able to get myself off, which is okay. I'm not losing my hair and I don't require a 3 hour nap every afternoon. So just saying that, I just make sure that on the back end, I'm trying to do more things for my body to keep the dosage low um, from that point. And then my daughter had some mental health issues creep in adolescence. So again, utilizing the allopathic model tools, they are available to us, but we still had a lot of back end work to do in all those arenas. Um, and it makes a difference and it makes a change. So I am very passionate and maybe um, uh, a little nuts about it when I talk to people about how they can actually help themselves. One of my goals as part of my mission to heal people or help them heal themselves actually is self-empowerment, a sovereign path, and permission to heal yourself. So I guess it's important to understand then my credentials. I am the nerd, very proudly, so you don't have to be. I uh, I have a Bachelor of Science in Biology. I have a master's degree in human nutrition and functional medicine, and I am a doctor of chiropractic. Actually, I got the chiropractic degree before I got the human nutrition and functional medicine because once again, I was noticing that in clinical practice, I couldn't get people where I wanted them to be. And there was like a missing link. So I built um, from the chiropractic place, I would say, and got the nutrition degree and the functional medicine degree, which we'll talk about in a minute, um, to assist getting people further in their health and not just managing pain or not just managing some kind of crazy symptom. I also have 23 years of holistic health practice. That's bumped up since I made this PowerPoint point. It's now 24 years of doing this. So one thing I understand to date is that scholars study things, sages put those things into practice. So I would say at this point, yes, I have a lot of wisdom that I have gained in healing people through the practice. I also am an instructor of biological and health sciences since 2019 for a community college and a smaller college. I am the mother of two kids. Their ages have changed since I created this PowerPoint as well. Two cats and two dogs. Puppies on the way. The puppies, um, that was also old. So I guess we have to discuss a little bit more about what I do. So I have the degree in functional medicine. Because my primary degree is chiropractic, and my toolbox is not pharmacology. As a chiropractor, we don't prescribe medications, and my diagnostic toolbox is mostly muscle, nerve, bone, joint. We call this functional nutrition. Now, I labeled the title of this class as conscious nutrition, which what that means, in case you're wondering, okay, consciousness is bringing some truth, some information, some awareness to what you're already doing. That's true learning to me when we bring in new information. So I think it's really important that people understand what it is that I don't do or what functional medicine and nutrition isn't so that we can then identify what it actually is. Functional nutrition is not counting calories or putting a person on a quote unquote diet. I think those are swear words in the box of what I do. First of all, counting calories, although it's part of the story, I know in my generation was such a big focus, and that is old information. And anyone that still is counting calories, I encourage you to stop doing that. And we don't want to put you on a diet per se. It's an eating plan, it's a lifestyle. Because the word diet to me indicates that you think it's going to stop. It's something that you choose for a little while and then you stop. Functional nutrition is not weight loss. I am not the girl you will talk to if you are looking to lose weight only. I believe that also in my generation, what I have seen is quote unquote fat phobia, and that is a trigger for me because it's not the complete story. And if that is the only part of the conversation that a person or practitioner wants to have, I think you need to find someone that will expand that information for you. This is what I mean by that. Weight is one measure, one biomarker of what's going on in your body, and it means something, just like the calorie counting, but it is not the solid story. What matters way, 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 way more is body composition. So it's how much bone do you have? Because you can be super thin, but if you're losing bone, that's not health. So weight as an isolated measure is not what I want you focusing on. I want you focusing on how much muscle mass you have. And that's another conversation, possibly for another day. And if we need to get out of worrying about our sizes, because you will change as you age, and it depends on your gender. your gender, your age, your genetics. There's a whole foundation of things that we may or may not get into today. Functional nutrition does not diagnose things. It is a different type of system. So, because the current allopathic and biomedical model is heavy in diagnostics, meaning this. We do all this tests and we give you a label for your group of symptoms. And then, according to that label, we have these treatment protocols and templates. That has function to me in that it gives me clues on the path, but that is not I'm not treating that word. I'm not treating that diagnostic anymore. I am utilizing testing not to give you the label, but to look at how all of your body systems are integrated and how they are working together. So it's far less of a reductionistic philosophy and approach to health and wellness than the current biomedical model. And I love it. So it is holism. A lot of people think that when we use the word holistic, that it's some kind of hocus pocus hippie talk, and it is not. That is the true meaning of the word health. The word health means to become whole or to bring into wholeness. So, and it doesn't lack science. It's very objective in a lot of its findings. However, there is an element of the entirety of the human. We'll talk about that in a minute as well, I believe. Functional nutrition or functional medicine will not target that symptom or that illness. Again, we're not aiming at the rotten fruit on the tree. We're looking at the rotten fruit on the tree and saying, well, what happened to the roots of the tree? How healthy are they? What about the soil? Is the tree getting enough water? Is there enough sunlight here for the tree? What has the tree been through? Okay. It is targeting the core, or we could say the cells of the body. It's not a magic pill. It's not a nutrient rabbit hole or a one-hit wonder. So one thing that I notice, even in natural health, and I am very careful not to go down these places. Someone will come to me and say, "What about, moringa?" Or what about as a sweetener, stevia? If you're looking for that one thing to bypass your actions, it doesn't exist. We're still in this mindset of we want to keep doing what we're doing, but not have the same outcomes. And that's, if we keep doing what we did, we keep getting what we got. We're looking for bypasses. If you truly want healing, that's not what this is. So, having said all of that, functional nutrition and functional medicine is not a bypass to the core of your problems, which do not always begin in physiology or in the body. Sometimes they are mental, emotional things, but we can help that anyway. Functional nutrition and functional medicine is not anti-medicine nor anti-science. So, I've already mentioned that there's a lot of science behind it there, and all that means is that there has been scientific method put to the inspection of some things. We have to be very careful when we think that healthcare equals science. They are not synonyms. Healthcare utilizes science, but it also uses math and psychology and sociology and English and things that are not science within it. So healthcare is one of those things. If we stop being objective within the box of healthcare, we step out of science. So let's talk about what functional nutrition and functional medicine is. Like I mentioned, we use testing. We can use the same testing that a conventional medical practitioner will use, but we don't use it the same way. We are using it to look at relationships between all systems of the body. Rather than looking at only cardiovascular health, we're saying, well, what about your neuroendocrine system? What about your brain? What about all of your endocrine glands? It uses the symptoms as a trail to the clues. So it's like breadcrumbs to the core. Functional medicine and functional nutrition are a slow brew to a wellness lifestyle. So it's not fast. One thing that I encourage patients to understand, because we're not targeting that symptom, we're targeting the function of your cells. Um, the speed will not be pharmacology because we're not bypassing, we're resourcing, and it takes time. We live in a linear time matrix, and it's gonna take time to make a change that holds. And as you're making changes, you have to realize it's not always about, again, you want to keep doing the having bad patterns or bad habits and try to bypass those actions and choices with a pill, whether it's a vitamin or a pharmaceutical. That's not what we do here. We make changes, and they're baby steps. We're using food and supplements as our medicine. Medicine is anything that catalyzes the change. It could be walking in the sunshine, taking deep breaths, drinking water. It could be a walk in the woods, a hug from your dog, a hug from your loved one. Medicine is anything that inspires that healing process. Functional nutrition and medicine will connect nutrient deficiencies to the diseases of the body and the mind. The mind-body connection is huge. It's one of my favorite areas to work in because we have also been trained that it is very separate from the physical body, and it isn't. And if you need science to support that, it does exist. So objective trials have supported this for decades, by the way, probably about 50 years. So if we're not recognizing that yet, that's what I would say, a weakness of the allopathic model is it's so slow to change. When we get one bit of information, it takes off on a course of momentum of this giant train that just doesn't, it's hard to change it. Functional nutrition and functional medicine is very sovereign and self-empowering. I mentioned that, meaning this, you are responsible for your health. You might have something genetically that you're predisposed to. You may be able to help it, maybe not change it, but you are responsible for the direction of it. We all are. That is different than giving our power to the medical establishment that exists. I do not encourage that for anybody. They are not the gatekeepers of truth. And I say they as the institution that exists. Also be careful, I would say, with what you think insurance is supposed to do. Also another conversation for another day. Functional nutrition and functional medicine is aiming to nourish, to supply, to resource, to heal. So I would then ask the question, okay, great. Who needs this? Why would I choose that? Well, if you have or had any stress in your life, you need that. If you are on a pharmaceutical, you need nutrition because you're already telling me that your cells are not sourced with some type of nutrient, and it is manifesting as a diagnosable disease or disorder. If you have chronic pain, you have need for nutrition. Your cells are yelling at you. If you have chronic or acute illness, okay, so if you have an autoimmune disorder, or maybe you caught a cold, either way, you need some type of nourishment at the cellular level, at the tissue level of each and every system of your body. If you have chronic inflammation, if you have any mental, emotional stress, you need nourished. When we have mental, emotional stresses, your nutrients become depleted. Then you create new pathways that are very difficult to change. If you have sleep disorders, if you have digestive issues, if you have fertility issues, all of those tell me you have a nutrient deficiency, and the only medicine to fix it, quote unquote, fix, is to nourish the cell and deliver it the resources that it needs to operate. If you have cancer, heart disease, diabetes, if you know you make poor dietary choices, if you choose Cheetos over lettuce or carrots consistently and way too often, you need nutrition to help with those choices. If you have a sedentary lifestyle, if you have a job that requires you to sit all the time, that is just as bad on the spectrum of activity as hard manual labor like construction jobs and lifting heavy things. So, from this list, I'd say everybody needs it. Here's the other thing that I will use to support who needs it. Um, if you can tell me that you have no stress in your life, no emotional stress, no mental stress, no chemical stress, no physical stress, no temperature stresses, then I guess you don't need it. But I don't know who those people would be that have no stresses put on their body. And we have to understand why we eat in the first place, why we have food. Food has come to serve many purposes, but the primary role is to resource our bodies. So the next question we have to ask maybe is, why are we so stressed? And why do we need this? And why has this become such a hot topic? There is a food medicine movement, which I am delighted about, I'm in love with, because again, food can be a weapon or a tool. It's up to you. And the choice of what you choose to put in your body is really important. Poor nutrition is the top cause of death and disability in the United States. This causes more harm than tobacco, alcohol, physical inactivity, and air pollution. That's a big list. Over the years, I've had people very proudly, and I understand, very proudly tell me that they don't drink alcohol, or, they don't drink coffee. It's only decaf. If there is any medication on that list, I would say that those choices probably aren't helping them how they think they are. And there are reasons for that we won't get in here to today. But the growing and sourcing and production of food has become an industry, which has changed everything. You know that saying, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. That is something I very firmly believe in. Or no, that is an inner gnosis. Food is information for your body and your mind. What are you telling it? Our food has become very separated and vacant because of the agricultural, again, industry. It starts there. It starts by how things are grown and raised. And when they are more focused on volume, quantity over quality, it does not work. It is changing our physiology because of that. So the farming practices are huge. Organic, clean foods. That's a real thing. It changes the soil, what the soil can do for the plant, and what the plant actually has in it. Plants, like our bodies, cannot build or grow things in the same way if they do not have foundational resources. Excuse me. From pain to anxiety, every health concern has some type of nutritional root that is and or need that is not getting met. Again, remember my talk about the fruit on the tree. The disease or the symptom is like the rotten fruit that grew on the apple tree. It might have become rotten because something in the air or bugs or whatever. But it would be a disservice to that tree if we didn't look at the root system, if we didn't look at the soil, if we didn't look at the water and the air and the sunlight that it was exposed to. I mentioned this already. Our food that we put into our bodies, that information packet that we need to give it, it's more than a calorie, far more than a calorie. We should be investigating ingredient lists, not calories. The ingredient list will give us a better understanding of toxicity. So, what we've been taught to do is say, well, this has 0 calories and doesn't spike blood sugar, but you might be ingesting a poison or a toxin. So, a lot of the food that has been packaged is a chemical cocktail and a slow brew. We're poisoning ourselves. We've been trained to poison ourselves very slowly. So these are micro poisons, a lot of the foods. The picture I have up here, sorry, Wonder Bread, but I did a talk on this about 11 years ago. The ingredients in a loaf of Wonder Bread, and I do not recall all of or the names of the ingredients that do these things, but one is a cousin to plaster that we put on walls. And one ingredient, it has been shown scientifically, objectively, to be a contributing factor to ADD or ADHD in kids. Also, when they enrich flour, they spray it with folic acid. Folic acid, actually, that word, if you see folic acid, I would not eat it. 44% of us cannot handle folic acid or metabolize it well. Folate, we need. It's different. The terms tell me the form of the chemical that's in it and how well the body will absorb it, use it, and be able to break it down. So I would tell you to look far beyond calories and fat content. You want to look at the kind of fats that are used. You do want to look at the nutrient profile, meaning how much protein's in it, maybe how many carbs are in it. That's what we call a macronutrient. The micronutrients would be your vitamins, minerals, trace elements, etc. Ingredient lists, though, will deliver you a better understanding of toxicity, and you will have to do some research on the language because you may or may not recognize the terms. Here's the other thing. When you look up a certain ingredient in a food on a food label, it may say generally safe. They are currently working to remove that nomenclature or change that nomenclature on food labels because it's a bypass to put things that are poisoning us in food. Also, something might be okay in a small dose, but remember the example with my grandmother, a little bit won't hurt you. Yes, it actually does. It congests things in a body. And when we do that, we set ourselves backwards. And we don't look at overlays, meaning you might be able to not have a symptom from what you do today, but if you eat this 3 days in a row and all of a sudden you have like migraines and diarrhea, you don't know what happened, and it's something you've been doing because your toxicity is building and you cannot clear the toxins, not quickly. I would encourage you when you're looking at foods and how you eat and how you nourish the cells of your body, change your focus from calories and fat amounts and understand where your food came from and what it has been through from soil to table. This is seems like a big feat, but literally if you stick to the outside of the grocery store. We've been told that probably 1,000 times. Get away from things in boxes, packages, and things that are easy. Get back into cooking and connecting with your food, the whole process. Once you do that, and focus on that, you'll do better. Also, when we talk about the information that we're gaining from our food and its ability to actually nourish us, a nutrient, we have to, is any chemical compound required by a cell to do its job. So, essential nutrients are things that you must have. Macronutrients, again, these are proteins, carbs, fats. I would put fiber in there, very important. And micronutrients, that's your vitamins, minerals, and electrolytes. We can say what would cause a deficiency in our bodies or in our cells. Like, why is that happening? Part of it is that it's not present in the food, not like you think it is. So maybe they tested cucumbers, right? And they say this is in a cucumber. Maybe it used to be in a cucumber, but it will really depend on where how and where the cucumber was raised and grown and what it has been through to get to you. Also, those stresses are really what we're talking about when we discuss why your body would be nutrient deficient. So, stress is a primary cause of deficiency. When we talk about stresses, there are more than mental, emotional stresses that impact your body's ability to make and do everything it needs to do on a regular basis. Therefore, we continue to eat, we continue to nourish, we continue to resource the cell, we support the body. The body is wise beyond what you think it is. So just because you don't understand it, you still use it, right? We don't understand cell phones, but we still use them. So, um, I think that a lot of us walk around with the meat suit of our body and we don't know how it works. Um, and we expect it to perform at an optimal level, but not giving it the right kind of fuel. I'm going to get into the stress zone because this is one of my favorite things to talk about in all the healing work that I do. You can drink all the bone broth you want, use red light therapy, take supplements, work out, and read tons of books. But if your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight, if you cannot move out of past traumas, mental, emotional, physical, whatever, you can't do it by by doing all that stuff alone. You can't out supplement your trauma is what I'm saying. So once again, if you're looking for a bypass, functional medicine and nutrition is not that. It's going deeper and utilizing any tool that we can to make the change. So back to the deficiency thing. Why are we deficient? Because of those stresses. What would the stresses be? Genetics is a big one. What you need to understand about genetics, it is a map in every single cell of your body. Everyone has the same codes. You don't, you're not your mom, you're not your dad. You're a mix of your mom and your dad, and then a little bit of variation of your own. So there's like three overlays when we talk about genetics. Sometimes you're genetically solidly predisposed to something that lands. That would be like my son and his type 1 diabetes. But sometimes you have genetics that remain quiet for a very long time, if not forever, until They are expressed. You deliver a particular environment and they are expressed in a certain way. So that would be what we call epigenetics. Your cellular environment matters um, in the expression of how that map plays out or how it manifests. So your gender then also matters, and this will lead into hormones. So the genetics will dictate your gender body, and that is XX or XY chromosomes. That then leads to the hormones that your body is able to produce and or receive. So that matters in how you become nutrient deficient or your requirements. The next thing that will matter in how you manifest or express nutrient deficiencies at a cellular or tissue level is your age. Age is huge. You do different things as a 5-year-old than you do as a 55-year-old. Your body's very different. And your requirements are huge. So when we talk nutrition, if you are supplementing, children require way different things and shouldn't have certain things because their body is not mature enough. And then as you know, you are 35 and beyond, if you are a female, 35 and beyond, you need to start living differently than you had when you were in your 20s, and that is an absolute. Or you're going to become nutrient deficient because your hormones are changing. Hormones are huge, and maybe in the future, I can do some female health teaching. It is such a big deal in how we heal as we age. And it needs to be considered, and it's finally getting some airtime and talked about way more. Your life events are absolutely going to matter. So the previous slide was about trauma. So if you go through some event and it is traumatic to you, meaning your nervous system cannot process or regulate, that matters. And you will be dealing with building new pathways, and that is going to deplete nutrients. Your lifestyle choices, that's the big one. So you can't control everything in your life or in your health, but your choices you can. And that means how you choose to move forward. Even if things happen to you that you didn't ask for, how do you choose to move forward? Every action counts, every single one. So before you choose Cheetos, think if you can pause and stop, talk, have a little mini dialogue on the inside of yourself before you choose the Cheetos and maybe reach for the carrot instead, understanding the outcome. That's a win, and that needs celebrated every single time you do a better job. And then the stress categories are physical stresses. The thought loops that you have will matter, but you can also change them. That takes a little practice. Emotions, you want to heal emotions or work with emotions, not necessarily, you don't want to bypass them. Again, that takes a lot of practice. Toxin exposure is huge. And temperature changes actually is a big deal on a body and how you deal with it. All stressors. And when we talk about stress, by the way, it is not something that floats outside of you. It is actually your physiological response to your environment, inside environment and outside environment. So whatever's going on in your body and around your body is a stress. And keep this in mind. Moderate stress on a body helps you grow, helps you change, helps you move forward in a positive direction. So learning to work through stresses is quite powerful medicine. Okay, so how do we know would be our next question. How do we know what nutrient we're deficient in? How do we know how to resource a body? Again, you have to take a, a tally, I guess, of where you are on your journey, meaning the five factors that go into determining your health outcomes: genetics, gender body, age, life choices, and life events. Where are you? So this is where we come into the understanding of like, well, what symptoms do I have? Or what was my diagnosis? We could even use the diagnosis again as a breadcrumb on the trail to the origin. Let me give you some examples of how you may or may not know what's happening. So if you are deficient in vitamin D, you're going to have a thyroid imbalance. You absolutely will not have a high functioning thyroid axis. You're going to have pain, specifically low back pain, maybe leg pain, depression. That's a big one. Osteoporosis, very susceptible to viral infections. So if you are not getting sunlight, you are built to get sunlight, by the way, best in the morning, then supplementation will be required. If you are already, say you already have depression or osteoporosis, you're already telling me you're deficient and you need vitamin D. So if you already have the diagnosis and you already have the symptoms of said diagnosis under that category, that tells me you need it. Vitamin C deficiency might look like immune system issues. I think we think about that pretty easily, but also collagen issues. And if you haven't thought that one through and you don't know where collagen is in your body, that is every single joint in your body. That's your skin. And in and around organs. It's a huge deal. You might have liver imbalances if you have vitamin C issues, and that will translate into blood issues, actually. If you have cavities, you likely have a vitamin C deficiency. It's not all about the sugar touching the tooth, it's what the sugar does on the inside of your body that depletes your resources. Gum disease, periodontal disease. If you bruise easily, that tells me you are vitamin C deficient. If you are tired, I should say beyond tired. Fatigue is beyond tired. That is likely linked in some vitamin C deficiency. Any joint issues, any joint breakdown, you have a vitamin C deficiency. So that would be arthritis. That would be, I get a lot of people that come and say it's bone on bone. There's no joint structures within it. You need vitamin C. Not saying you can make it grow back, but maybe you could stop further progression. When your skin begins to thin, and that happens commonly as we age, there is a deficiency of vitamin C or an inability to build from vitamin C or build collagen from it even. If you have restless leg syndrome, you are likely vitamin C deficient. If you are deficient in B vitamins, you will have low energy, you will have thyroid issues, you will have definitely fatigue again. You'll have pain, probably systemic pain. Anxiety, this is a big one. I love working with anxiety. Not that it can completely go away, but we can help regulate a nervous system with some really simple fixes. If you have rosacea, you are vitamin B deficient. If you are estrogen, we'll say dominant, you are vitamin B deficient. If you are bipolar, you have vitamin B deficiency. And when we say B vitamins, it's a whole group of them. When we talk nutrition and nutrients, they are grouped in umbrellas. If you have sleep issues, skin issues, or digestive issues of any kind, slow motility maybe, gastroparesis, things like that. If you have Crohn's disease, you're vitamin B deficient. If you've been on an antibiotic, you're vitamin B deficient. And I would like to interject, who hasn't been on an antibiotic? You are vitamin B deficient. Magnesium deficiency can look like migraines. Absolutely. Anyone that comes to me with migraines, we start with magnesium and just for a little FYI, magnesium is the central molecule in chlorophyll. So any of your green leafy vegetables are going to have magnesium high. But here's the thing too, gang. When you eat a food that you're supposed to have a nutrient within it, your digestive system has to actually do its thing. And then from there, it has to be transported to the appropriate cells. And if it can't get there, if any step in that process is wrong, it's not going to matter how many raw materials you put into the system. So it is a step-by-step process of how we make sure all these pathways are clear and what we call upregulated. Back to magnesium. Bone deficits. So osteoporosis is not all about calcium. We have been inundated with way too much calcium, actually, if you ask me, and I don't think it's a great fix. So if you know that you are osteopenic or osteoporotic, you need to do a foundational fix to kind of do a course correction. If you have depression, you need magnesium. Pain of any kind. You will hear me give the same cocktail to almost every condition, and I'll explain why in a minute. But pain, muscle tension, people with really hard muscles have way too much calcium in their bodies, and I can feel that after doing, touching bodies and doing body work for over 2 decades. You can feel when a person needs magnesium almost. If you have any type of insomnia or PMS. Now, having said that, magnesium is kind of a hot topic right now, and there are multiple forms. Um, I will guide you accordingly to an appropriate form. And when I say form, it's the chemical formula that the supplement is in. I'm going to guide a person to food first, always, and then we supplement beyond that. Because if you already have a condition, a diagnosis, or a disease, you will not be happy with food fixes, the speed of a food fix, I don't think. And you likely need more than that anyway to make a change in the momentum of your health. You got to tip that scale. Essential fatty acids, this is will show up in depression. Again, notice that one. We're talking about mental, emotional health impacted by the lack of a nutrient. That's pretty amazing if you ask me. Any immune system wobbles, any single one. And I really need to teach you what your immune system is, and I will just interject this here. Immunity is your body's response to any pathogen. Now, a pathogen does not only mean microbe. A microbe would be bacteria, virus, parasite. Immunity is a response to tissue damage from those things, but also from toxins, also from radiation. We know that from X-ray radiation. We know that from other things. So, your body is truly bombarded constantly from the inside out and outside in, trying to correct things and tissue damage. And inflammation is under the umbrella of the immune system. So if you have pain, you have inflammation. If you have inflammation, you have an immune system imbalance that we need to resource the repair of each and every cell in your body as well as the tissue type. Calcium deficiency would look like digestive issues, potentially nervous system issues, and muscle issues. And I'm going to put heart, cardiovascular issues. That's a huge deal. We have hormones. Vitamin D is one of them, by the way, that regulate the amount of calcium that goes in and out of bone because that's happening all the time and available for your nerves to fire and your heart to fire and all of your skeletal muscle to fire and smooth muscle. So it's a big reach, and if you only consider it alone without impacting pre-hormones and hormones, you're missing the boat. Vitamin A is one of my favorite nutrients. I'm a nerd, so I'm allowed to have a favorite nutrient because it is the underdog. It is not recognized in importance as much. And depending on your genetics, you might not get vitamin A from carrots quite the same way as you would from beef liver. So genetic profile testing is a big deal. Vitamin A deficiency can look like communicable diseases. A long time ago on the CDC website, and I have no idea if it's still there because I haven't looked, it was listed as a treatment for measles. So I just want to say how important this is. And it goes way beyond your eyes, but it goes into the same tissue type as in your eyes, which is also your skin. So if you have a skin issue of any kind, you want vitamin A. It will also help with cardiovascular disease because of the tissue type that's in it. It's not necessarily helping heart muscle tissue, although it probably is. It's helping with the lining of the vessels. Amino acids, they are the building blocks of proteins. So you need them for literally everything. This is involved in the cells produced by your body for immunity. Any hormone you build, we need an amino acid. If you have anxiety, or bipolar disorder or thyroid issues, you need heavy end amino acids and or proteins. Electrolytes, that would be the sign for me that you have an electrolyte imbalance would be food cravings. If you have strong cravings, I tell people to follow their cravings. I think it's really important your body is talking to you about things and its requirement. Now, I will also say that food cravings can be confused. Your body can be confused. Like if your body knows that it gets salt and fat from, hard salami, lunch meat full of toxins, you want to pay attention to, what element would it need from that? Not the toxins, but probably fat and salt. Gray hair is a sign to me that you are super electrolyte imbalanced and or mineral imbalanced. If you have weight gain, it's not skeletal muscle or muscle cramps, that can be a sign to me that you need electrolytes. Restless leg syndrome, confusion, that's a big one. Or brain fog. We could say brain fog. If you get lightheaded or short of breath, this can be mineral deficiency or electrolyte deficiency. So beyond the symptoms, we can use the symptoms again as a trail of breadcrumbs to the core. But I like to be more specific. Instead of guessing, we need to test. We can always start with a questionnaire. Questionnaires are actually valid, very valid ways to begin a journey. Let's look at the symptoms. Let's take the symptoms and we apply them to what we know the core or the root cause would be. Genetic testing is my absolute favorite, and I do a type of testing called nutrigenomic testing, and that gives you a whole map of your gene code and then what that translates into as far as nutrient deficiency, or like if you that's where your starting point is. We know that, maybe you or your genetics mean you need more vitamin C than your average bear. I think that is a paramount test. I think everyone needs to start there with a genetic testing because that can tell you if, you need more in this case. And I have this picture up, by the way, on the screen. This is probably my DNA test. I am a person that requires more vitamin D than your average bear. I need vitamin A, not from carrots, but from animal sources, beef liver, cod liver oil, real butter, that kind of thing. Otherwise, I'm getting things out of carrots. It's just not going to be high on the vitamin A, and my genetics cannot do the conversion. That's important to know. It's extremely important to know because what if you're a person that says, well, I'm getting vitamin A from carrots, but your genetics will not allow you to build from a carrot, okay, or from the compounds in a carrot, at least not in a way that will help you repair the lining of your gut and your blood vessels, or it won't help you with your skin because you're not eating it from an animal source, or it won't help you fight the measles because it's not from an animal source. That's important information, and it's literally my favorite test. We can do labs. So the genetic test tells us why, the blood test tells us where we are on the journey. We can do urinary panels looking for certain things, hormones, metabolites, heavy metals. Salivary testing, one of my favorite for hormone panels, looking at, testosterone, estrogens. cortisol levels. I love salivary panels a lot. Hair samples can also give us an indicator of heavy metals. That would be a primary function of a hair test. There's something I have, it's called a Zyto scanner. It's based on this your skin conductance. It's like a lie detector test, kind of, only we're not asking you questions specifically. Your skin would be exposed to certain frequencies of light, and then your sweat response is measured, which is really fascinating, really fascinating. And then we can actually look at blood pressure as an indicator of or a small indicator of adrenal stresses, like how your adrenal glands are working with everything that you're going through from the inside out and outside in. Also, just as a solid measure of where you are in any minute. So when we talk about all of this nutritional stuff, yes, food first always. When that fails to correct things, and if you are in severe depletion, um, which many, many people are, then we reach for the supplements. Now, not all supplements are created equal. I will say that 100 times a day. The form, the chemical form that it's in matters. And you want things that are whole food and physician grade if you can. Now, a whole food supplement's my favorite way to go. Again, it's a concentrated food pellet. It's more complete. Your body assimilates it far better. That's my favorite foundation. I will always start you there unless I already know that it won't even matter how many, how much of a raw material we put in there, that we need a synthetic or an isolated product to put in there. And I would determine that by your genetic profile. That'll help me know which direction to put you in. But I have worked with some really great companies that I trust a lot. Their integrity is great as far as where they source their raw materials from, and then the whole processing of it. It matters. It really, really matters. I will not send you to your typical pharmacy or, no Dollar General vitamins, please. The quality is poor, and many other, retail places do not have supplements that I would tell you to take. What they tend to do, or what they tend to be made from, is synthetic or like rocks. And they try to like take isolated rocks and glue them together and call it a multivitamin. Your body won't know what to do with that. And it actually may damage your tissue. It might be toxic to you, damage your tissue in the taking of it. So those of you on a multivitamin, I honor you for understanding that nutrition is important, and you need these things in your body, and you're doing the best you can with the information that you have. But I'm here to guide you in a far better way. Okay, so one thing I said that I would get back to, and I do nerd out on this a little bit, the coolest part of working with nutrients. Well, let me say a couple things about this. First of all, so many people are not trained in nutrition. And if you're not already aware of it, the allopathic medical community is not trained in nutrition typically. They do not get a lot of nutritional training. Their training is in triaging and emergent care and pharmacology, and thank goodness that it's there. But I would say they are not strong in their understanding of how to work with nutrition. They aren't taught it. They're introduced to it. Absolutely, because when I teach my students, they're introduced to nutrition in tissues and cells. But to use nutrition in the same way that you do pharmacology, that takes us in a very wrong direction. If you're using a nutrient and you're targeting that symptom, like you're expecting to treat it, it doesn't work that way. You use the nutrition, again, a nutrient or a complex of nutrients, that's the whole food nutrient model, to source cells and tissues for the biochemical needs so that they can create things or break things down. It's the whole cellular metabolism process that we want working well. And if we're putting things in there that stop the process or deplete the resources, that's when we get into trouble. Utilizing nutrition in food form or supplement form to do this. You can put one nutrient into the system and it will correct a boatload of things. Let's take magnesium, for example. If you have a bunch of symptoms and you're pointing me in the direction of I need to resource your immune system on multiple levels, I will say I will start with magnesium because magnesium is involved in like 300 different cellular processes at any one time. Nutrition in the right or magnesium in the right form can change 300 things in a body. So that's one reason why no matter what you bring to me, I might be like, you still need to do this cocktail. One of the things, one, I would say foundational combination that I use a lot is magnesium and zinc. I'm almost always starting there because of how versatile they are and how many things they are involved in a cellular process. So, correcting one deficiency can change tons of outcomes. So, so knowing all of this, so far you can ignore what you have going on, pretend it's going to fix itself, and it might. No one can say that. Bypass it, meaning look for the one hit wonder, look for the med or the nutrient that you think is going to bypass the problem or change what you're doing. Change your action steps. Take charge of each and every action that you make. And again, baby steps, they matter. The little things build up and matter. This is where I would start. I would remove your seed oils from your diet, from your pantry. Look at your labels. If you are eating processed foods, I guarantee they have seed oils in unless you're already on the natural health path and doing better and using better oils. So that seed oils, canola, corn, sunflower, safflower, and cottonseed. Many of these are industrial chemicals and they're not good. They are vegetable oils, and we've been trained to think because they're polyunsaturated fats that they're healthy. They aren't. They aren't. That polyunsaturated part, because of how they're grown and processed, makes it insignificant in what they're doing to our bodies. They are inflaming every part of us. This is probably step one. You want to get back into the removal of non-organic things and veggies. If you can do a clean eating plan, meaning do as much organic and fresh as you can, you're going to get a way better outcome. If you can't do organic for whatever reason, you do the best you can. Organic matters though. And non-genetically modified. Genetic modification, although fantastic, is creating some frankenfoods that our bodies don't know what they are. You want to reduce bottled water, actually. Now, if you have a choice between like Coke Zero and bottled water, I'd probably still choose the bottled water. But the chemicals from the plastic is a big concern and getting bigger because they disrupt hormones in your body. Chemical coated skillets. This is a big deal. You need to get rid of those. Those are forever chemicals and they come off and you eat them and they don't go away. You can get them out of your body through detoxification protocols, but it is a process. So you want to go to like cast iron, stainless steel, and a really good quality ceramic. No copper, no Teflon. Watch your chemical cleaners and hygiene products. If you are a female, hygiene products, we use boatloads of Bath and Body Works stuff and chemical shampoos. It is a great idea to get those out of your life and try to find some more natural products. We're doing this to reduce the stress load on your body so that we can upregulate some pathways that will bring you to better health. Artificial sweeteners, not better than sugar. Sugar has its own problems. If you need sugar, make sure it's a raw sugar, turbinado or rapadura. Artificial sweeteners, they are not a winner. That's the toxicity profile we need to consider. May be non-caloric, they may not raise your blood sugar, but they are doing other things that damage your neuroendocrine system. Have been linked to at least seizures. There was a thought that they were linking to cancer, which no RCT studies on that currently, but still, that needs looked at because when we understand what cancer is, there may be a part that it plays. It definitely plays a part in the nervous system. So artificial sweeteners, I recommend you get them out. And then you want to remove or reduce processed grains and dairy products. We've been trained poorly on the food guide pyramid, and you know they flipped that. So grains used to be heavy, pushed on us heavily. They aren't now, which is great because they are part of the problem. And again, it is the growth process and the processing process. They're laden with chemicals that our bodies don't know what to do with. So no enriched grains. If you read your labels, a lot of your packaged foods are enriched flours. You don't want that. Dairy products. I am very much in favor of raw dairy products if you're going to do them, but there are a large portion of people that cannot actually tolerate cow's milk. And it may be from the type of cow, how the cow was raised, but also pasteurization and homogenization makes it very different. If you can get hold of some really great dairy products, hopefully raw dairy, um, you can do it that way. Some of us can't do cow's milk, and maybe goat or sheep would be a better solution. But really tap into yourself. I know we've been trained to eat cheese, but you don't need that. And if you're like, but how do I get my calcium? You can get calcium from green leafy vegetables. So I encourage you to do that more than I encourage dairy. Okay, so what you want to add, okay, and on this slide, I also have a personalized grocery list that comes from the nutrigenomic testing that we do. And this was just an example, and I love it because after it breaks down, you know, what your requirements may be, it tells you how to get them. And I super love it. So, what you want to add then, after you cut things out of your diet and your life, is you choose organic, non-GMO whole foods, meaning like a whole apple, not processed applesauce in a plastic container. You want nutrient dense foods. That is driving you away from calorie counting and the amount of fat in it. I want nutrient density, meaning high vitamin mineral content in a small area. Purified water, best choice. Supplement for deficiency. So, how do you know? How do you actually know if you're deficient in something? Again, you can use symptoms, questionnaires, and we can do labs to test for some of it. Um, Blood draws are not always the best way to detect a nutrient deficiency. Sometimes, but not all the time. You want to use organic herbs, teas, and spices. These are medicines, if you're not aware of it. They absolutely are, and they're in whole form. Um, if you are on a pharmaceutical, you have to be a little bit careful, sometimes a lot careful with herbs, teas, and spices as your medicine. And you want to look for conscious nutrients or nutrition, meaning things that are whole and in complexes and as pure as they can be, which is getting harder and harder to do. To begin your path back to nourishment as opposed to being in a depleted state. So here is my recommendation for a general wellness cocktail. Everybody needs to do these things every day. And they can be more specific. Again, quality matters. Get it from your foods first. Make sure you're practicing, conscious nutrition in every food choice if possible. Now, here, let me super side note here and tell you I do like the 80-20 rule. Okay, 80% of the time you need to be on point doing the things that will take you to your highest potential. 20% of the time, that's for whiskey and chocolate or, whatever your vice is. Give yourself a little leeway. We live in this world. So let's be real and don't hate ourselves when we trip on our own shoelaces. get back on the wagon, do the right things most of the time. Keep the seesaw imbalanced in the direction you want it to be. So back to the wellness cocktail. Everybody needs to be getting vitamin A, D, E, and C on the regular. You need omega-3 fatty acids, heavy on that a little bit, or foods with omega-3 fatty acids, magnesium. This I'm going to put in this category electrolytes and trace minerals. Trace minerals could include iodine, copper, molybdenum, um, things like that, manganese, little bits, chromium. Almost all of us are zinc and selenium depleted or deficient, so those will matter. That could be under the trace mineral category as well. Amino acids, that's a big deal. Again, that is protein building block. NAC, N-acetylcysteine, that helps prepare DNA. That's a big one for certain people. B complex, I think everyone's deficient in B vitamins, every single one of us. Coenzyme Q10, that is going to be liver healthy and cardiovascular system healthy. So anybody taking a statin drug needs CoQ10 or ubiquinol. Probiotics and prebiotics, prebiotics being fiber, or you can get them in a supplement. Probiotics, yes, you can get it from yogurt, but if you're doing like, your commercial yogurts are not going to be high quality and you're not getting a complete spectrum. And if they have sugar in it, you're not getting ahead. And interestingly, we can work with probiotics to get to a certain goal. If you have, for example, anxiety, if you tell me you've been diagnosed with anxiety, I can put into the equation a particular probiotic strain of bacteria with known outcomes that will deliver you the nutrients to help calm that nervous system. So just a reminder, don't chase numbers on the scale. Make it more about how can I make my body strong and less about how can I make my body skinny. I want you to choose waking up with a smile on your face, ready for your day, loving your life. Choose being excited about feeling good. Choose the feeling of foods that heal your body, that make your food your medicine, and take baby steps. Remember that every action counts. Again, my name is Dr. Teresa Estrella. You can email me at naturalways@protonmail.com and check out my website at naturalways.net.